What a joy that you have found us for this podcast. How exciting it is to think that this spiritual message is going out to people around this planet. Whether your life is working at a peak level or whether it can use some enhancement, have I got the message for you today. So get a piece of paper, get ready to take notes, call a friend, have them watch this podcast also. Then you too can have something to talk about and take it to a deeper level. So enjoy. Here we go. Hey, good morning, Seaside. Wow, what a joy it is to be with you on this fabulous day here in Encinitas. The annual message here on Earth Day is we take a look at the environment. And so I thought I'd start today by giving you, when you walked in, 10 things you can do to increase your support upon this planet and humanity. Also, I gave you some websites there that you may go check out on your own. I put it together this morning because I was thinking, well, this talk could get heavy. I've been spending all week reading these Earth Day stories, and they're just shocking to my core. So I'm going to try not to download all that on you. And then to top that off, I've been hanging out with all these legends of the nonviolence movement, sharing their war stories, and it is, so I'll be careful as much as I can. But I have got a lot of interesting information this week, so we'll see what comes out. But it was a wonderful week to be part of this peace contingency, to be with the legends of the nonviolent movement because of what took place in our country just this week alone with Virginia Tech and you know the pain of that whole experience. In Texas, there was a hostage situation where a couple of people were killed with that. We had a presidential candidate come out singing "Bomb, Bomb, 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 Iran." It's been a rough week, you know, in our nation, and to be on a train with the likes of the Gandhis, the grandson of Gandhi was on the train, and Yolanda King, the oldest daughter of Martin Luther King. And when we got to San Jose, word got out that we were traveling on the train with these families, as well as Cesar Chavez's clan. And Dolores Hector is just a legend, really, in our time. Here's the lady who helped found the Union for the Farmers with Chavez. She was given a humanitarian award by President Clinton. She received a doctorate from Princeton last year. She's been named one of the 100 most important women of the 20th century. So we get off the train in San Jose, and the mayor is there to greet us because you know what's taking place in our nation. They're looking for some other kind of news that brings peace, and we come out with these new thoughts, these new approaches, and along with the mayor was the vice mayor, another city council. The train station was lined with people holding candles up and banners welcoming the peace train, and they broke into singing Imagine. And as we walked farther, the press was there and the TV cameras, and we were on the news that night because what we were bringing was an alternative to the violence that has been taking place in our country. And so this morning's message is one does make a difference. I mean, as you travel with the Gandhis or you travel with the Kings or Dolores, you begin to recognize here are individuals that came up from tough times, and there's just the grassroots movement. And so I want us to be aware that one does make a difference. And as we take a look at this Earth Day week here, it is something that we want to carry over in our life all the time. And sometimes people think I'm just so small. How can one person be effective? And then I ask them, have you ever been in bed with a mosquito? You'll realize it doesn't matter how small you are, you can be effective. And I want us to get that this morning. As I start to share these stories, I want us to recognize that one does make a difference. You are not too small. You can be effective, but you are the one who must begin to reach out, speak out. Write our local representatives and let them know that they represent us and not a party. So let your voice be heard. You know, one of the voices that's being heard at this conference were the Quakers, this peace-loving, spiritual group that believes in, sitting in the silence, waiting to be moved by Spirit, sharing these brochures saying, students, not soldiers. And they pointed out that we spend trillions of dollars, we find trillions of dollars for war, and yet we can't find it for education. That we look for places to cut. You can't cut any more arts or music in our schools. And then they pointed out that California tax dollars alone By the end of this year, we'll have funded $57.8 billion of our present war. And with that, that could produce almost 9 million scholarships for university students. They could put on staff, according to the Quaker research, 871,000 new elementary school teachers. They could build over 4,300 elementary schools. So it's important that we speak out with what is in our heart. See, the first steps we can take is to listen to our head and to listen to our heart, is to be aware of the things that are taking place, of what is going on. I watched Diane Sawyer's special on Earth Day Friday night. I don't know if you saw that or not, but one of the things that she shared that stuck with me is she said, there are no passengers, that we're all crew. We're all crew on this spaceship called Earth. We're all crew. We all have a task or a responsibility to do. And I'm not here to tell you what that is. I'm not here to tell you what it is that motivates you. I am here to encourage you and entice you this morning. If there's just one thing you can take from this morning's message, is something that you are inspired to do to make a difference on this planet that we share together. Because as Gandhi was sharing, Arun Gandhi was pointing out, is that we're all interrelated. We're all interconnected. We're living on this planet together, and what we are doing makes a difference. And what is important is that we begin to build community. The challenge is there is so much individualism that Chow, who was the gunman in Virginia Tech, they knew that there was a mental illness there, but here was a loner, a guy who was an individual who hung out on himself, who didn't have the friends that assisted this guy. It is as we create this nationalism, this individualism, this sense of borders, that we are going to create challenges in this world. What keeps us safe in our neighborhoods is that we know our neighbors. Isn't that right? You feel comfortable in your neighborhood because you know it's a good neighborhood, you know your neighbors. Maybe 3 or 4 doors down, you don't know who they are anymore, and maybe you do. But what stuck with me was a story of a man recently, you may have read this, who died watching his TV, and it was literally a year later before they discovered him. Is that amazing? We are living in a time where there is the aloneness, the individualism, the protection, the walls. It is time for us to reach out. And the way in which we can reach out is begin to open our awareness to the practices that are taking place upon our planet. And do we support that or do we not support that? I know we can feel impotent sometimes when we take a look at the immensity of the things that we're dealing with, whether it's global warming, whether it is extinction, whether it is war. But you know what? This is one planet, and one person does make a difference, and you are that person who is making a difference. It's up to you to step out and let your voice be known. You make a difference, but it's important for you to realize what is going on. Today when you go on your website or when you go through Internet Explorer, the front thing is Earth Day, and there's all sorts of stories. I encourage you to read some of those to inspire you to see what it is yours to do, because one person does make a difference. And sometimes we just have to get reconnected. You know, this puzzle piece I gave you for Easter about getting connected, I've come across it for weeks now, and it reminds me when I start getting into that place, I'm too small, there's nothing I can do, is to get connected with my source. And to add to the consciousness, Ernest Holmes talked about everything has a mental atmosphere. The mental atmosphere that I want to bring to my environment, the mental atmosphere that I want to bring to my world is one that is connected with Source and realizing we are all interconnected and that we are an important piece to the puzzle. And that I'm going to be a conduit that reminds people that there could be a different thought here on how to deal with a situation, a new thought, a new approach. And so if all of a sudden I start thinking the enormity of the situation and how can I deal with it? The rubber band I gave you last week, remember that? You pull, you got it. You got a little bruises there? You know, when you have that negative thought, when you realize that what you're adding to that mental atmosphere is less than a positive thing, snap. Our world cannot afford that negative thought going on. And so realize that you make a difference. Diane Sawyer was sharing that we are at a time on our planet of mass extinction. 2 out of every 5 animals are endangered species right now. That there have been 6 massive extinctions in the history of this planet. This is the only one that has been caused by man. It's caused by us. Which means we can stop that. We can change. Don't worry is what Tony was saying to us. Change is coming. and we can watch it happen over in Africa. You know, as I was growing up, there was always the concern about the extinction of the big animals because of the ivory. It's come to the real, the economy. I don't want to say the government, but the economy has come to realize that the animals are now worth more in ecotourism alive than they are dead. A change is coming. But it takes us, our willingness to step out there. It takes our willingness to speak out and to vote with our dollars. The dollars make a difference. If you choose to be conscientious as to how you are spending things, you will make a difference. One person makes a difference. I think last year I shared the story of how, you want some fast food. You want some food, you want it fast, you go to fast food, you go through a drive-thru, and you're sitting in the drive-thru, and what's coming in? You're pouring out the emissions out of your car. That CO2 is getting pumped into our environment, helping to put the hole in our ozone while we're waiting for a burger of a cow that has been shot up with growth hormones, so there is more meat for us, but also shot up with antibiotics so it doesn't get diseased in this crowded area with pneumonia, influenza, and all those other things that come from it. And then we're planning to ingest this cow that came from an area that has we deforested the rainforest so we can raise these cattle. And now it's probably served in a styrofoam container that we'll end up throwing into our landfill that will take 500 years before it starts to biodegrade, along with a little plastic toy they gave you for your kid that keeps them entertained for about an hour before you throw it in the pile of junk that you got. And we call that a Happy Meal, But what I was saying is that we do make a difference with our dollars. Because now many or some of the places serve the food in recycled material, in material that is biodegradable. You do make a difference. McDonald's, I can go positive or negative. But, on the positive side, they have said they will serve chicken only that has been raised with soybeans that do not come from deforested areas. I want us to be aware that there is a shift that's happening. In USA Today, I was reading an article called Getting Gold Out of Green. They come to realize, you start being green-oriented. I'll tell you, as Seaside takes a look at building their new facility, we're going green. It is a high priority on our list. But Wells Fargo says that they have put out $750 million in construction of environmentally friendly offices and apartments. The Marriott Hotels is saving up to 65% on hotel lighting costs because they have replaced over 450,000 light bulbs from incandescent to the fluorescent. Continental Airlines, $16 billion in the last decade because they are now working with fuel-efficient engines. Sun Microsystems has created a computer that is 5 times more efficient and has sold so many that last year they have finally run in a profit for the first time in quite some time. There is a difference that is going on. But also what is going on with these individuals that are now making the money is they're flaunting it. It's called greenwashing. And it's like ExxonMobil saying we have spent $100 million to help the environment, not telling you why they have got to spend that $100 million. And so I want us to be aware that you are making a difference, and I'd like us to be conscientious about the different things that are possible. So rather than getting angry and adding to the collective violence that is there, that is prevalent. I mean, we've got rap songs that are just so violent that makes Imus look like a kindergarten in his approach. But the kids identify these days. They call the people who listen to that and sing that the haters. The kids are calling them the haters. It's now no longer just an acceptable thing. Well, that's the music. But you know what? There are different classes. And so they're making a difference by saying, I don't need to listen to this anymore. And what I want us to recognize is that we do not need to tolerate these abuses that sometimes get put upon us by such large conglomerates because of the globalization of what is taking place on a global scale, some companies buy other companies that become big, that buy other companies and we can thank, and I'm not saying they're bad things, but NAFTA, the North American Trade America's Agreement, and maybe like the World Banks or the International Monetary Funds, or the groups that are able to direct large amounts of energy and resources and finances that can have a response because of what they're willing to put into an environment by people that were not elected to the executive board of those committees, that are really not governed by elected officials, that actually do not need to report a lot of their dealings. See, on this Earth Day, it's important to expand our awareness to realize that to operate in some of the third world countries, there is enough bullying going on that will force economies or countries to change some standards that are important to them. If they set up some ecological culture that they felt important, and that there was not the ability to function within that kind of economy, there can be a bullying and withholding of the resources, or a company can go in and employ employment that is less than humane, at levels that is not kind, in factories that are not comfortable for working, because of the power of that. So it's important for us, because it also then begins to make our choices less. So as we continue to take a look at how can I respond, take a look at your world and see, what can I do at home that makes a difference? If I can have a McDonald's change, if a government can then choose to be more green-oriented, because the people have chosen to speak out and not step back and withhold. When was the last time you wrote a letter to your congressperson, or that you wrote a letter to the paper, sharing something that was dear within your heart? And so there's things that we can do. And in regards to natural resources, they're natural resources. They're the planets. They belong to everybody. Who gave a few individuals the right to control the resources of this planet? So I give you food for thought. I'm not giving you answers here. I'm hoping I'm stirring you up a little bit, so you go home today and say, what is it that is mine to do? What is it that I can do in my life that can help make a difference? Yolanda King shared an interesting story. I'll get to this. Like I said, I got so much stuff from this week and up there. But she shared an interesting story about a protester at a nuclear power plant. And this protester was there day in and day out. Sometimes he was arrested and thrown in jail, but most times he was out there. Really didn't impact things too much. It went on, seemed like forever. Finally, a reporter asked him, "Why are you protesting out here? Why are you staying out here? You're not changing the world." And what he said was very interesting. He said, "I may not be changing the world, but I'm not letting the world change me." That's why it's important for you to do your inner work, to connect with the source and see, what is it that's right for me to do in my life and in my world? What is it I can do to make a difference? Because we are in a consumer economy. That is who we are. That's what we do, and then we dispose of it and create massive amounts of waste. You've probably read about what goes into landfills and all those things. But there's things we can do. And so I'd like to share with you from Julia Butterfly Hill's book, One Makes the Difference, which is really what inspired the title for this morning's message. Remember, she spoke to the United Church Religious Science Convention down here in San Diego a few years ago. She's the one who had herself strapped to the tree, that old redwood, for quite some time. But she shared some ideas on how we can rethink of what it is we can do in our life. Because if we remember that we are all interconnected, that we are all interdependent, these are our brothers and sisters in the farthest reaches of this planet, in the rainforests that we are deforesting at the statistic I read, at about 60 football fields a minute. On an annual basis, we eliminate a rainforest about the size of the state of Kansas. And rainforests are a pretty good idea. You know, they take our CO2 junk and they create oxygen out. It's a good idea, rainforest. And we do other things with it. But she said to rethink, like differentiate between your needs and your desires. She said, research questionable companies. You're going to invest, research it. You're going to buy, go ahead and research, companies. Learn your labels. Learn to read your labels. Learn to know what those things that are on the labels mean. She says, buy recycled. She said, cut excess packaging. I mean, these are all things that we could do. Just say no to the chemical, pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. We are fortunate that we live in an area where you can go to Whole Foods Market, where you can go to Henry's, where you can go to a Jimbo's and make a conscious choice not to support putting the pesticides. She says, go green when you clean. Once again, in our stores, you have alternatives as opposed to putting bleach and chlorine into our environment. Chlorine, I won't even tell you what chlorine does to the environment. That is just nasty stuff. Hang out your laundry. Yeah, that one's tough. Say goodbye to bottled water. If you received my email this week, it says that America uses an estimated of 2.5 million plastic bottles every hour. Wow. Where do you think that goes? The majority back into the landfill. Shop for quality instead of convenience. Instead of going to that fast food and going through that whole thing I mentioned, shop for the quality that you want. Value your vessels. In other words, instead of using aluminum foil and saran wrap, go ahead and use glass containers so you don't consume those kind of things. Clean with cloth. Diane Sawyer said that each of us will use over 2,500 rolls of paper towels in our lifetime. That's a lot of paper. Explore the possibilities of your paper. There is a statistic that says if you took all the wasted paper from offices in America over the course of a year, you could build a 12-foot high wall that goes from LA to New York. Did you notice the Sunday program? We used to have like 10 or 12 inserts and flyers in there. Ginny has all of a sudden created this weekly newsletter that tells you everything we used to put in those flyers. And so, we are attempting to do what we can here. Rather than a dozen pieces of paper, you get one weekly newsletter that tells you the different things that go on. Let's see. Donate your doonads you're done with. Recharge your batteries. Bring your own bags to the store. Do you realize, according to Diane Sawyer, obviously I watched that, we go through 500 billion disposable bags annually here in America? There's a statistic that says that if 25% of American families use just 10 fewer plastic bags each month, an estimated 2.5 billion bags could be saved from landfills each year. There's simple things we can do. Do I do all that? No way. But as I said this morning, I'm just trying to stir us so we can do something different. If it's change the light bulb, I try to keep the air in my tires inflated. I live less than a mile away from here, so I don't drive that much. I attempt to buy organically. We try to figure out how to do things around here, whether it's going green or using less paper. It's not as if we're excellent at it, but it is a conscious effort that we attempt to make. And what I'm attempting to do this morning is to stir you enough to know that you're not too small to make a difference, that one does make a difference. Gandhi said that we have got to live what we want others to learn. He also said, be the change that you want to see. And how do you do that? For me, I begin being grateful for the good that is going on. I am grateful that we're in a spiritual community that values this kind of respect for our planet and our Mother Earth. I am grateful that at least once a year that we stop and talk about these hard facts that are there, that are so much easier to put on the back burner and not pay attention to what it is we're doing to our ozone or to our South Pole or to our polar bears, or, the list goes on. You've seen those iconic films that went out there this year. Al Gore is going to be up for, I understand, a Nobel Peace Prize because he is bringing a sense of awareness. But there's also good news we can be grateful for, is that it is very repairable. That if we had stopped with chugging out all those emissions from our car, that they say by the middle of this century, the ozone would be repaired. The rainforest, if we stop cutting it down, could regrow. I'm grateful for what I can be grateful for, that I'm in a neighborhood where there are choices, that I am given this information, that I have the ability to share it. And I awaken this morning, or in the morning. I'm excited to be able to get out of bed, or at least that I have a bed to get out of. I don't want to open my eyes and start my day. I'm grateful I got eyes I can open. There's things you can be grateful for, and as you put that gratitude energy out there, there is more to be grateful for. And so I've done my best not to create a doomsday talk this year around Earth Day. I just hope we get our own bags to take to the grocery store, fill up the tires of our cars, do the things around our house that we can, maybe take it into our office place to use recycled paper, to be more conscientious because we make a difference. We are interconnected, interdependent, interrelated upon this planet. Just because there's other people living on the other side of the world doesn't mean we don't care. There's a spot in the central part of Australia that are children who were born 6 years ago have never seen a drop of rain. There's things that are going on that we become totally unaware of, seas that are no longer there. The Ariel Sea over in Russia is no longer existent. When I was a kid, it was a big spot on the map. And so, as we expand our awareness and we recognize it's a very exciting time we're in, it's not a bad time. It is a time for which we came. And, I've realized I can't go fix the things that we've done. I realize over and over again, I can't go back to the past and change what has happened. But what is exciting is I've got this now moment. I am here and I am now. Ernest Holmes talks about now is the appointed time. Now is the moment where Spirit is expressing. And the exciting part is that I can give birth. I can give birth to new ideas, a new thought. We're part of a new thought movement. It is up to us to be that conduit, to bring the new thought for living on this planet, for interacting with human beings, to be on a path of peace and support for our brothers and sisters across this planet. It's an exciting time. It is a dynamic time. It is a good time. And I am so grateful I'm at this time here with you. God bless us as we change this world.
So I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward as we do take our gift from our heart. Again, with a lot of heart and soul and passion. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now. I trust you enjoyed that podcast. It was very exciting to be able to create that and to know that there are people like you all around the world that are observing and integrating these spiritual principles into their life. And so if you enjoyed it, what I'd like to do is encourage you to tell a friend or bring several friends together and watch another one of these podcasts. And then afterwards, take some time to talk about the spiritual principles, to talk about the stories and what significance they have and relevance they have in your life. What then happens is it moves to a deeper and deeper level in your world. It becomes real and assists you to create the freedom in your life that your heart and soul so desire. So if you like this, I encourage you to watch it again, but also tune into our website here at seasidecenter.org. There, you can get some of my written material and take a look at it. You can read some of my spiritual prayers. You can even go to our online bookstore and order some of the books. And if you're so moved, what I greatly would appreciate is your financial support, which you could do online at seasidecenter.org. It is support like yours that assists us to be able to continue to do these kinds of gifts for humanity and send it out to the world. because you know what? We are making a difference with this spiritual message. And because of support like yours, people are being touched in the farthest reaches of this planet, as well as our backyard, more than we could ever begin to realize. So I thank you from the fullness of my heart for making a difference.